In my bunker today, I have John Malafronte. He's Irish-Italian second-generation immigrant to the U.S., born in the 56, to a Catholic family, raised in a Catholic way. Found out as a teenager that he was gay. Told me how it was to come out and the abuse that he suffered from his family, which he eventually cut all ties to. He told me how he sees the U.S., and why he moved away, and how he got settled into Europe. He now lives in Prague, where he runs theater. He always liked theater. That was his escape. And he puts classic plays on stage in Prague in English, carving out a niche for himself. He had a lot to say, and talked about how the times have changed and the politics and the division between people and Democrats and Republicans and so on. And I don't think that he kind of fits the mold that you would think. So a lot of his opinions you would expect to come from a straight white guy, which is but he's not a straight white guy. Interesting talk. This is going to be in two parts. So on the first part, we talk more about his life in the U.S. and relocating here, and then we get a little bit into social media and expectations to life and stuff like that. And on the second part, we talk more about like global warming, COVID response, media censorship, and where it all will go and where it will end. Interesting talk. Most people would probably call John a conspiracy theorist or tin hatter, and he doesn't really mind to be called that because he doesn't feel that he has anything to lose, which must be a very comfortable position to speak from, because a lot of people are afraid of saying what they think because of what they could lose from saying it. The sponsors, that's the Oat Bar Cypher Tower 21 in Žižkov. You can get it delivered home on Volt or Bolt, or you can drop by and pick up something, some great goodies. Oatmeals, skiers, healthy sweets, good coffee, great service. My favorite place, obviously. And Alfred Jobs, alfred.cz, Alfred Jobs in the App Store. You can find and apply for jobs with one click. And you're anonymous, so you can search while you're still working for that previous job that you learned to hate. Check it out, guys. Okay, so welcome, John Malafronte. How are you?
I'm very good today. How are you?
I'm very good. You're an actor. We were just talking about it now before I hit record. That you did some American TV series.
Yes, I did 12 Monkeys, and then I was in not Deliverance. Damn, I forgot. It's been 5 years since I've done any television or film roles.
But 12 Monkeys was big, right?
12 Monkeys was very popular. Yeah. I had a very fun day of filming on that with the lead actors.
Okay.
Who were super kind to me,
Yeah.
and even invented a new scene for me to do, and told the director, "You have to film more of this guy. He's very funny." So they gave me a whole extra bit to do, which ended up on the cutting room floor, as so often happens. With TV and films, you tell all your friends, watch episode 10 of 12 Monkeys, I'm on it, and then they watch it, and you're not gone. You're gone completely. Maybe your name is in the credits, but you're nowhere to be found. It happens very often here in Prague to Prague actors.
Yeah, I've been on a set once myself in a TV commercial, and it was a very long day for very few seconds.
Exactly, yeah.
But you're mainly in theater, right?
Oh yes, theater is my true passion.
Yeah. As an actor or director?
As an actor, as a director, as a sound designer, and as a graphic designer. Mm-hmm. I started out mostly as an actor with the directing on the side, and over the years I have flipped that around, and now I am mainly a director, and I occasionally act in other people's plays.
Mm. And you're doing those classics like Hamlet and like when I was reading some of the stuff.
I played Hamlet actually.
Yeah?
that was the high point of my career in New York before I left for Boston to spend my adult career in psychology. I got to play Hamlet off Broadway. That was pretty damn exciting.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And So anyway, So the reason why you're here is that we are in we are both members of the same Facebook group, and I saw you comment on a few things there, and I found that some of the stuff that you were saying were things about like how we're handling COVID and the big business and then all that and
right.
the brainwash and all that stuff that has been going on. And it was refreshing because overall here in Prague, where we are recording and we both live, it's been very much, at least what we see in the languages that we read.
Yes.
I believe you don't read Czech, right?
I don't.
Oh, neither do I. Mm-hmm. But Google Translate helps sometimes. But it's very kind of a one-way narrative. And anyone who has a different opinion is very much kind of, people don't like that when somebody asks difficult questions or comments differently. And you do.
Yeah, me too. But, being here in Prague, social media is one kind of interaction and one kind of censorship and source of division. Daily life here in Prague is very different than that. America and the UK, I think, are more in line with the metaverse of Facebook and Instagram and all the other garbage. But, just living day to day here in a Prague neighborhood, meeting Czech people, meeting other people from every kind of culture you can imagine that lives here, expats, the discourse is very different. This is one of the last places of civility that I know of.
Yeah, I agree with you actually, and what I find interesting in this group that we are both members of, it's a expat group where primarily foreigners are communicating, and I feel that the stuff that you see there is not something that you kind of meet in everyday life here. Right. I've always said that Czech Republic is one thing; it's rules, and then there is reality, and those are two very different things.
Exactly.
And that's one of the things that I love about living here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But anyway, so you're in theater. You're doing theater now, right?
I am. As we speak.
Yeah.
I have rehearsal tomorrow night.
Okay.
And my play opens in 2 weeks.
Uh-huh. And how has that been during COVID and all that stuff?
It has been very difficult. I had to put my plans on hold. I had been wanting to start my own theater company for about 5 years now. The expat theater community here is a bit disorganized. It's I'm going to get in trouble here. It's more. It's more like
we're 5 minutes in, and you're already in trouble.
Already, I'm in trouble. Expat theater here is really more like community theater was in America. It's friends and neighbors getting together to put on a show. It does not reach a level of professionalism that I grew up with as a New Yorker. Growing up seeing Broadway plays on a regular basis, I have a different idea of what's professional. So I wanted to set a new standard for what can be done here, and that's my goal. And I couldn't get it started when I wanted to because of COVID, but I worked around it by doing a live play over the summer. I did the Noel Coward comedy Blithe Spirit, which adapted itself very well to the Zoom format, which is not terribly theater-friendly, Zoom. But we managed to find a way to work with the technology so that it really, our audiences for our live broadcasts in August, and we brought it back in October, the feedback we got most was, wow, it felt like I was watching a real play. I didn't think that it could be that way. I thought I was just going to watch like a Zoom classroom kind of thing, but it felt real,
But for you, it must be different though, because I mean, as a director, doing it online isn't.
It was different, but it was better than I thought it would be. Yeah. Even though we were all spread out, two of my cast members were in the UK, rehearsing with us. It very much felt like a community. It felt like by the end of the rehearsal period that we had come together and formed a very tight, very positive group. And when it was all over, we were all as sad as we would be if we had just closed a live production, which is why we brought it back again in October, because we loved it so damn much and we got such great feedback. We decided to do it again live. So that tided me over until now, when I'm finally able to get something up on stage live. And that's what I'm getting ready to do now.
And what's that play? What is going live now?
I am doing the Oscar Wilde play, The Importance of Being Earnest.
Yeah.
And ticket sales are going really well. Quite by accident, I found out by the woman who was doing our Czech translation. We will have Czech surtitles at the theater, so Czech audiences can come and enjoy the play. But she told me that the importance of being earnest is part of the school curriculum here.
So people like
yes.
Yeah.
So I have so far 5 school groups coming to see the play.
That's great.
Yeah, because they're learning it in school.
This could be
I had no idea.
This
I
could
had no
be
idea.
a gold mine. You need to go into the schools and
Exactly.
look at what they're
That's what I
reading.
said to a friend the other day. I want to copy the curriculum for drama here in the Czech Republic, and those are the plays I want to direct because it's a huge audience out there for it. So
yeah,
I picked the right show, and I also went with a comedy because we're coming out of this insane lockdown, and I know for myself, if I want to go back and be in a live theater, I want to hear music. I'm going to laugh. I don't want to cry. I don't want to see King Lear. I don't want to see Macbeth. It's enough. It's time to laugh. Time to get people together and be joyful.
Yeah. Maybe I'll come and check it out. It would be nice to go and laugh somewhere. I've been going to some comedy shows though, and that's been a kind of a light in the dark sometimes. But you're from New York.
Yes, I am.
Born in the 60s or 50s.
I was born in 1956 in the Bronx.
Okay.
I'm a Bronx boy. In the neighborhood that is now considered part of the South Bronx, which is considered one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in New York. But when I was a kid, it was still paradise. Yeah.
It wasn't dangerous back then?
Not at all.
And why is it dangerous now? What has happened there? I mean, what's changed?
What has changed is as crime started to spike everywhere in New York, I think that it hit my particular neighborhood the worst because of the shift in demographics. When I grew up, it was a mix of everyone. I went to school. I'm Irish and Italian. I went to school with kids who were Jewish, who were German, who were black, who were Chinese, who were Mexican. Everyone. So when I was a young student, there was no talk of racism everywhere. Critical race theory. It just wasn't part of our lives. We didn't experience. We grew up loving all of our neighbors. An
asshole was an asshole, and a friend was a friend.
You got it.
And you didn't care about color or race or anything.
That's right. That's right. It was the end of a golden age in New York. I feel very lucky to have grown up there when I did. During the 60s, mostly my late childhood and early adolescence. New York was a safe place. It was beautiful. It was clean. I mean, people in my neighborhood in the Bronx didn't even lock their doors. That's how safe it was. No one worried about crime. I used to go down into Manhattan with my school chums when I was 8 years old, riding on the subway with just my friends. Now...
that would be a police case.
Exactly. It would be. Yeah. You would be hauled into social services for letting your kid ride on a subway at 8 years old. Yeah. But it was perfectly normal when I grew up. There was no fear of anything.
But you say like your parents are Irish and Italian, and I mean, you must be a unicorn because the Irish hated the Italian, the Italian hated the Irish.
Oh, they very much did at the time that my parents got together. They had to elope when they were 19 years old.
What does that mean?
That means running away to get married because their parents forbid it. My mother could not bring my father home to her Irish family, and my father could not bring my mother home to his Italian family. Absolutely forbidden. They had no choice but they ran away upstate New York somewhere and got married and then came back. And
the families accepted them in the end, I guess.
Yes, they accepted them in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, once it was legal, Catholics, well, if you're legally married, I guess we're stuck with you now.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And then you get a double portion of Catholicism. You get the Italian Catholicism and the Irish Catholicism.
Oh, you get the best of both.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is there a best of both in this?
No. No. They're both crazy Catholics in different ways. I guess Italian Catholics are big into matriarchy. If you go to Italy, all the Italian boys are still living with their mamas. And Ireland maybe is a little bit the other way around. I think it's more paternalistic in Irish culture. But they both had specialties in guilt, plenty to dish out on both sides.
Yeah. But how was it with the forgiveness and the confessions and that stuff? I mean, did you do all this traditional?
Oh yes, I went to a Catholic grammar school. I went to Catholic high school. I even went to a Catholic university. Long after I had really stopped considering myself a Catholic. But yeah, I was in all the way Catholic school.
Yeah. And what kind of kid were you? Were you have siblings or?
I have an older brother and sister. Much older, actually.
Okay. And were you a good kid or?
I was a very good kid. I didn't give anybody any trouble, but I got a whole lot of trouble in return.
How?
Well, I was abused at home by my crazy parents, and I was abused at school because I was scrawny, I was awkward, I couldn't play sports, and I got beat up, pushed around. It was a brutal childhood. I didn't feel safe in my own skin until I went to college.
That's like 18
years old. Yeah.
But what kind of, like, when you say abuse at home from your parents, like physical abuse or?
Yes, physical, psychological, and even sexual abuse. Yes.
And how did that? I mean, like from very young age or?
From a very young age, from as early as I can remember. I went through my adulthood burying most of this. It wasn't until both my parents were dead that everything came roaring back out of the past. And it took about 5 years of therapy to get through it all and to get a grip on it, to let go of it. But I have. I have.
But how was it back then? I mean, because you're talking about like, I don't know, like 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
You don't like, I don't know. You kind of have we have a feeling that these kind of things are more out in the open now, and there are more,
yes,
let's say, things that you can do about it, or the school is maybe more attentive or something.
Oh, it's completely turned on its head now. I mean, if you're a gay kid in 8 years old and you think that you're gay, I don't think anybody really knows at that age. You're embraced. You're the class hero. You're the protected class now. You're not the one getting beat up. It's wild to see what the attitude is now around sexuality and kids. It's insane, in my opinion. But it has completely swung the other way from the repressive atmosphere that I grew up with.
So no one knew that there was anything wrong?
No.
When you were going through this?
No, I hid it from everyone. I wouldn't cry. No matter how badly I got beat up, I would not cry. I stood my ground, and I would not let my family see how much they hurt me. I just buried it all inside.
But did you know it was wrong? Or do you know what I mean? Because sometimes when you're young, you kind of think, okay, this must be going on in every home.
I did think that it was going on in every home, and because as I came to discover over my years working in psychology, abuse is almost genetically passed down through generations, and I believe now that my parents were abused by their parents. My aunts and uncles were abused, and it got passed down to many of my cousins. It was rampant, and it continued after me, which is why I have no contact with my family now, because I have a niece who abuses her daughters. So it continues. It's the march of abuse into hell, destroying lives. And I couldn't be a silent witness of it. I tried to do my part to try to bring it out into the open, to be the one that broke the chain, but I couldn't, so I left.
And what was your escape then? Like when, as a kid?
My escape was two things. I loved, and I still love, playing board games. I have a huge collection of board games, and I was the kid that always had the coolest games on the block. So that was one way that I was able to have friends, because they always wanted to come over and play my games. That was a salvation.
But wasn't it hard to bring kids home when your home is not safe for you? Do you know what I mean? Like
it was, and I would often go to their homes instead, or I would just arrange for it to happen when my parents were not home.
Yeah. Because this is what you sometimes hear from children or people that have gone through something like this, that they actually never want to bring anyone home. I don't know if there's an abusive or an alcoholic in the home or something. They are so ashamed.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was nothing overt. I mean, no one could have walked into my house and watched my family in action and ever dreamed of what was going on behind closed doors. They hid it very, very well.
And why do you think they picked on you, or what was wrong with you?
Well, there's a tremendous age difference between myself and my brother and sister. I think that I was an accident. I was not planned. In fact, my mother was told that she couldn't have any more children. And at 40 years old, along I came, and they thought they were all done. My brother and sister were getting ready to go off and get married and start their own families. And I arrived, and they had to start. They thought they were finished, and they weren't. They had to deal with me. So I think that was part of it. And I just didn't fit the mold of what a late 50s, early 60s kid did. I didn't go out and play basketball and
baseball
stuff. I sucked at it, and I wasn't interested in it. I wanted to play games. I wanted to play records. I wanted to rock and roll. I just didn't fit, no matter how hard I tried.
But is that because you're gay, do you think?
Oh yeah, a big part of it was because I was gay. For sure.
And you were realizing that already at an early age.
Yes and no, which I think was unique to growing up gay during that time period. I knew deep inside that I was, but yet I dated girls right through college. I dated girls until I was 20 years old, when I knew without a doubt that I was gay. But I thought that somehow, by some magic, if I went out with the right girl, it would all go away, and I'd be straight.
And that must have been difficult, coming from the background that you come from, the Catholicism and all that. And then, as you say, we're talking about here, 60s, 70s. I mean, it's very different times. And as you said earlier, anyone who is gay or trans today, that person becomes the school hero or the class hero, and everybody wants to be their friends because they're special.
That's right.
So we went all the way to the other extreme.
Yes.
But how then, if you date girls when you're gay?
Yes.
How does it then feel to kiss a girl, or did you have sex with girls?
I never had sex. I never had sex. I got close, but I always slammed on the brakes. I didn't mind kissing at all. I thought the girls I went out with, I thought were beautiful. I was crazy about them. They were great friends. They were fun to be around. We did theater together. We had so much in common. I felt safer being around them than a lot of the straight guys I went to school with. So it was great, except when I couldn't put off having sex anymore, and then it was a problem.
Yeah, it kind of caught up with you somehow, or you were forced.
It did.
And were you acting as a kid? I mean, was acting somehow part of, or because you mentioned the board games, and I was kind of, and that board games are also a little bit of a fantasy world, right? It's kind of
yes. Oh yes, it's an escape.
Yeah.
It has a similarity to doing a play.
Yeah.
It's about escaping into an alternative world where there is order and justice
and rules
and rewards and fairness that doesn't exist in the real world, but in the world of playing a game or in the world of getting up on stage, you get to live in a better place, a sane world.
And was there some acting there? You know, like was there something
There
in
was
school
a little bit in a little bit in grade school, a little bit in high school, but not until I got to college did I really bloom as an actor and find out that I was pretty damn good at it.
So which college? Sorry, did you go to?
Manhattan College in Riverdale, New York. Rudy Giuliani was one of our more famous alumni. But it was a great little school in New York. It was right at the end of the A train, and so it it felt like a suburban college, but yet we could walk down the hill, get on the subway, and in 20 minutes be in the middle of Manhattan. So it was the best of everything.
Were you a good student? Because I mean, it must be difficult to focus when you have all this stuff going on in your family.
Yes.
And
I was a good student. Without really trying, I did not do a lot of studying. It bored me. I was smart enough to get by without having to do a lot of work. And the schools I went to really weren't all that challenging. You know, I didn't go to an Ivy League college. I could get by. I could skate by. And that was just great to me because that just meant more hours that I could devote to the theater.
And but you studied also at Harvard, or
no, I worked.
You worked at
yes,
Harvard
yes.
Medical.
Yes, I spent my adult career in Boston. When my husband and I moved to Boston, we both ended up being Harvard employees. My husband went into the Harvard library system, their art museum system, and I worked at McLean Hospital, which was Harvard University's teaching hospital for psychiatry. But you married quite young, right? Well, we couldn't legally marry until I think, about 17 years now, when Massachusetts became the first state to legalize gay marriage in the U.S. That's when we legally married. But, we consider ourselves married for 40 years now.
That's a long time.
It's a very long time. We've outlived most of our straight friends.
But how? So when you're 20, 20, you come out.
Yes.
How was that? How was it to come out and tell everyone?
It was good because I had a group of, by the time I was a senior in college, being pretty much running the theater on campus, the people who were going to come out started to find each other. And even though we didn't speak it out loud, we knew and we protected and we nurtured one another. And ironically, it was through the campus ministry, because it was a Catholic college, and the campus ministry ran retreats for college students struggling with their sexuality. So, irony of ironies, it was the Catholics that helped me come out.
That's crazy.
Because my friends and I went on these retreats to Atlantic City, to these wonderful, beautiful retreat houses for a 3-day weekend and of prayer and rap, back when people rapped in college. Rap had a different meaning back then.
Yeah. What did it mean then?
It meant talking. A rap session was people sitting around talking, as opposed to rap music.
So wait, so the Catholics church, or the minister from school campus, were they sending you away so you could discover your sexuality, or they were sending you away to heal your sexuality?
No, to discover it. Not to heal us or fix us at all.
Okay,
at all.
That's pretty open-minded back then, though.
It was extremely open-minded back then. We were really lucky. Really lucky. I look back and it was kind of amazing that they were even able to do that in our conservative Christian atmosphere of the time. I mean, this is, I graduated college in 1976. It was for, Reagan years.
Yeah.
It's very conservative everywhere. In the Catholic Church, in society. It wasn't a great time to come out.
And what about the family when they found out?
It wasn't so great. They all came to ultimately accept it, but it was not an easy road. They let me know each in their own way, that they disapproved and that I was letting them down in some way.
But that's weird, you know, like this shouldn't really matter, you know, like.
No, of course it shouldn't matter, but they were the product of their generations.
Yeah.
When nobody was out, when my parents were growing up, not at all.
Yeah. Because they have you quite old, or like, you know, your mom, as you said, she's 40.
Yeah,
so she's born in
1917. Yeah.
So that's a whole different thing. I mean, and that's like my granny, and I don't think that. Yeah, I'm not sure my granny could have handled such. You know, if any of her grandchildren or
right.
So it's just a very different generation.
Absolutely.
But those people had seen it all, though. I mean, they're born in First World War, then they live all of Second World War
and the Great Depression.
Yeah,
they lived through it all.
That makes people also tough, I think, or like, you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. It made them tough. It made them smart. They were able to be frugal and non-materialistic in a way that generations now will never be able to grasp again, because they had to. They lived through the Depression, but they didn't stop having babies. They didn't stop raising a family, wanting to own their own home. They managed, and they worked hard, and they were immigrants. My parents were first generation. My grandparents came from Italy and from Northern Ireland. In fact, I now have one of the ways that I was able to transition to Europe so easily is I went and got my Irish passport through my Irish grandparents.
Okay, the luck of the Irish.
The luck of the Irish. So, and they all came through Ellis Island. In fact,
they were quarantined there and everything.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. They went through Ellis Island at the time that Nelson Rockefeller, of all people, donated a huge sum of money to renovating Ellis Island and bringing it back as a museum. An incredible place. They did a brilliant job of it. My brother paid to have our grandparents' name engraved in bricks on the walkway around the main buildings of Ellis Island. So I was able to go and see their names right there.
It's a crazy time, actually, this time when this is happening, because I went to a museum in Iceland. There was a big exodus of people around the same time from Iceland. They primarily went to the northern states in Minnesota and Canada and places like that. And when you see this, so these were typically people that were not landowners where they lived, like the farmers. They were like the poorest of the poor.
Yes.
They didn't speak English, German, or any other language. They just spoke their own language, wherever they came from.
Yeah.
And then they go on a boat trip where, it could take weeks. And it's not like some luxury cruise. And they had spent all the money to pay for the boat trip. And they had 2 or 3 suitcases with them, 7 kids, and nothing.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. It makes me very impatient with the insane American immigration policy right now, where people come from all over the world, pour over the Mexican border, unchecked, get government benefits, handouts, left and right, because that is not how my roots happened here in America. My grandparents came here to assimilate and become Americans. I never heard my father speak a word of Italian, because his parents...
He wanted to be American.
Because his parents wanted him to be an American kid, so they didn't teach him Italian at home. They taught him English.
I don't know. I mean, because for me, this is... I mean, obviously, we know different people, and I haven't lived in the U.S. I've been there a lot, and I've done a lot of business there, and I have friends from there. I always found this kind of fascinating. I had this friend from Pakistan who he became my friend. We did business, and he came with nothing, or his parents came with nothing. But every time you asked him, where are you from? American.
Yes.
I'm American.
Absolutely.
And the passport was like, I don't know, it was like striking gold, like the American passport.
Yes.
That was the main thing. The guy lived under a fucking bridge for 2 years.
Yep.
Just to become an American.
Yeah.
Do you think, has that changed? Do you think that, I mean, don't you think
it's completely changed? Because my grandparents came here with no expectations that they were going to get any help whatsoever from the American government. They lived in the Lower East Side in the worst of the worst tenements. and worked their fingers to the bone as seamstresses and tailors and ladies' maids, and worked themselves up from nothing, from absolutely nothing. Proudly, they didn't want any help. They wanted to make it on their own.
They were too proud also.
They were proud. They were proud. It's all gone now. It's all gone.
But on the other hand, I mean, like someone who, well, yeah, there's a lot of people that would disagree with you, and they would say that, okay, now the nation is richer. If there is more to share, we could, I don't know, pay more taxes and give more to those people and give them a life that is closer to the life that we have. Why not?
Because it does not present people with the notion that what has always made America great is cultures coming together to form a new joint culture made up of all the little pieces. Now people come with a notion of territoriality. You have to provide me with a bilingual education. We have to have our own neighborhood. And this happens in Europe too.
Yeah, this is Scandinavia. You're just talking like this is what is happening in
absolutely.
Denmark and Norway and Sweden. And
Paris and London, there are neighborhoods that you don't go into if you don't belong to that particular ethnic group.
Yeah.
This is the antithesis of the American way of becoming a part of a
They
great,
all
of a
sweat
greater
on
culture.
the floor together.
That's
basically,
right.
No matter where you come from, you go through the same process.
Yes. And I think that you grow up with a different set of values if the government hands you everything when you cross over the border illegally. You're given health care and a driver's license and food stamps. There's hardly even any motivation to work, to do any of the hard stuff that is part of coming to America and becoming a responsible, hardworking American citizen with American values. No, now you go in, you keep your own values from wherever it was that you came from, and you're under no. It's quite the opposite. Instead of feeling an obligation to be part of the greater American culture, the expectation is that, no, you will recognize my unique and special culture.
But on the other hand, I mean, here we are too. I don't know about you, but I mean, I've been living here in Prague for 13 years. I don't speak Czech. I mean,
yeah, I don't either.
Are we expecting? And I mean, and then I see a lot of foreigners like us bitch about it online. Oh, why don't they speak English here and blah blah blah? So
no. I am incredibly grateful that it is possible to get by here as an expat without knowing Czech. At least in Prague, it's not. I don't think it's different outside the city limits. But I don't take that for granted, and I never approach a Czech person saying, just walking in speaking English. Hey, can you help me? No. I say dobrý den and mluvíš anglicky. I do not take it for granted. I am polite. And I get politeness and civility and kindness in return.
And you're not asking for any handouts here?
No, not at all.
Because there are actually
none.
No handouts.
There are none.
Here, yeah.
Although healthcare, once I... probably the biggest factor that is going to keep me here permanently now that I'm about to be 66 is the incredible national healthcare system here in the Czech Republic that after 5 years being here, I was able to be a part of. And now, unlike anywhere in America, I have every cent of my healthcare paid for, every prescription. And I've had 2 hospitalizations in the past couple of years. I've had a lot of medical bills, and nothing came out of my pocket. I was completely taken care of. And it's a damn good healthcare system.
Yeah, it is. I went to my girlfriend says that I don't hear anymore, so I went to the ear doctor the other day.
Yeah.
And the doctor started by telling me, oh, you're one of those guys that the girlfriend sent them. Okay, that's a very common symptom. And it was, super pro, paid nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yep.
And I asked her, shouldn't I pay? And she said, no, here it's free. And I said, yeah, but I'm from Iceland. We are being convinced that it's for free there, but I actually always have to pay. I said, no, here it's for free. And it's great service. And I feel that healthcare people here, they actually care for you.
Yes.
They don't want you just to run out and send you home with pills,
Exactly.
They only let you out when they're 100% sure that you're good.
Precisely. When you get hospitalized in the United States, the pressure from the minute you enter, the pressure is on from the insurance companies to get you out the door.
Yeah.
You know, when you had a baby in America, it used to be you were in the hospital for 4 or 5 days until they were absolutely sure that you were good to go home. Now they want to ship you out the next morning with your kid. You know, you don't need to be here. But both of my hospitalizations here, they were in no hurry to let me go. I was asking them to let me go. I was like, okay, I'm really good. I can go home now. But no, they wanted to make sure that I was 100% able to be home and take care of myself.
It was interesting when COVID started, then I was looking at, because I'm stupid enough to actually go and deep dive into some data and public data and backwards and stuff like that. So I looked at the average stay in a hospital, and the Czech Republic was 10 days, I think, 9 or 10 days per admission into a hospital was an average 10 days, not just with COVID, just in general.
Yes.
Because I just wanted to understand how big is the pressure on the system, how people can it handle and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the average stay in a hospital here is 10 days. In Denmark, where they pay up to 60% taxes, and they're told everything is great and everything is free, it's 5 days. Okay, it could be that Danish doctors are just better, or the facilities or the equipment or something, but not by half. No chance. So the illusion was, for me, like, okay, so actually they care more here, you know, like that was my conclusion out of this. And I also, you know, like they keep you as long as they need.
Yes, and there are no questions if at your job, if you are a Czech citizen and you need time off for any kind of medical condition, you are not expected to come to, you know, in the United States, unless you are bedridden, if you're coughing and sneezing and hacking with a cold or the flu, you go to work in the U.S. You don't get a day off unless you absolutely can't drag yourself in. You know, here in the Czech Republic, stay home. Don't infect us. Don't spread your cold germs around. Stay home. Here's your pay for the day. You know, go to bed, relax, feel better, come back tomorrow. It's a completely different culture.
But how come you came here? I mean, what brought you here?
We were looking. My husband and I were kind of, I think, the last of a generation that was used to working for one employer for your entire career. That just does not happen anymore, because no employers foster that kind of thing. You know, we caught the tail end of corporate entities in America wanting to nurture their employees and keep them around and value people that had 20 years of service for what they were able to teach the new generation of workers coming in. It's gone now. People work 5 years, 4 years at one job, switch, go to something else.
Is that the company's fault, or is it that we are constantly looking for?
It's the corporation's fault. They do not value the employee the way that they used to. That's certainly true in America. So one of the great advantages of staying with one employer is that you were able to retire early. After you had put in so many years of service, you could retire with your full benefits. And for us, that worked out to be our early 50s.
Oh, that's great.
And you know, my husband is a writer. He's a novelist. He wanted to write books. I wanted to do plays. I was tired of working. So we decided we were going to retire, and we knew that we would have to scale back on our expenses because Boston had become just about as expensive as New York to live in. So we would need a new place to stay. And at that point, was completely fed up with American culture. I was sick of the anger and the division.
This is 7 years ago.
This is
7, 8
it's a bit
years.
longer because Prague was not my first stop. So this is about 9 years ago that we decided to get out. First, we went to Ecuador because we heard that there was this amazing expat community. Healthcare was amazing. The thing that they didn't tell us was that the elevation was so high that I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
So that was a big waste of time. Then we went to Malta, and Malta turned out to be the most homophobic place I have ever been to in my life.
They're very, very old school.
Unbelievable, Malta. I mean, just
they recently allowed divorce.
Yeah,
because I worked in Malta a lot.
Yeah,
and I think until 10 years ago, divorce was illegal. It was illegal.
Yeah.
They're so old school.
Absolutely.
But I still love you guys in Malta, those listeners, because they are there.
Yeah, I have a friend or two in Malta. So we fled Malta, and we ended up. We had planned on spending about 10 days in Malta, and after 2 days of the horrendous hostile culture, we were like, let's get out of here. But where are we going to go to kill some days until our plane ticket back? So we looked up like Ryanair, where's the cheapest place to get you from Malta tomorrow, and it was Bologna. Mm-hmm. And I'm Italian. I've been to Italy many times, but I never really thought that it was a place that I could live. But we went to Bologna and fell in love with Italian culture all over again. And we went exploring, looking for cities, not the major cities where we might want to try living. And we discovered Verona, which was just an amazingly gorgeous city of a manageable size in the north, where things were a little more liberal. An hour from Venice, which is my favorite place on earth. It seemed ideal. And so we moved there, and we lasted 6 months.
Okay. What went wrong?
The mafia came after us.
Uh-huh.
We got a beautiful duplex apartment right near the Colosseum in Verona. Just amazing place. And there were some serious noise problems from our landlord, who played piano for 6 hours a day, really, really badly.
And I guess you were spending a lot of time at home.
We were spending more time at home.
Writing.
Oh, yeah. So it was her, and then there was a Kundalini yoga studio right underneath our window that liked to do very loud chanting at dawn. But the worst was this hound from hell that was chained up in the back courtyard behind our bedroom window that would howl until 3, 4 a.m. in the morning. And that is what really drove us insane. And in Verona, you cannot go to the police with a noise complaint or any kind of complaint against a neighbor unless you have 5 signatures. 5 neighbors have to come together and complain. So we got that together with no problem, because other people in the immediate area of our place were also bothered by the dog. So, we gave the police our names and our numbers and our information so that they could officially go and find the owner and see what they could do. And nothing changed for a couple of weeks. And we ran into our landlord, and I said, what happened with the police report? The dog's still barking. And she said, well, the police can't do anything because it's the local Don's dog. So, you can't tell them what to do. And I'm like, okay, so we've just pissed off the local mafia Don, and he has my name and number and address. Okay.
On a petition.
Yep, on a petition. So literally the next morning we were in Prague, because we had been here 8 years prior to that on a vacation and fell in love with the city. So immediately it just occurred to both of us that this was the place to try next. And so we came here and found a place. And, we were ambivalent the first couple of years. We went looking around Ireland, because I thought, I'm Irish, maybe I'd like to live there. Checked out the Netherlands, thought about Spain, thought about Portugal. We just didn't feel completely settled here. But
it takes time here.
It takes time. It takes time. I think once I realized that this was going to be an amazing place to retire, because to be a senior citizen because of all the benefits I could get from being a permanent resident here. And the expat culture, that there was no other city in Europe I could go to where I could start an English-speaking theater company. Can't do that in France or Spain or any place else I can think of outside the UK or Ireland. But we have that here, and a number of them. We have a rich cultural life here that is available to all of us. So
it's a melting pot here somehow. It's a good. And the changes that have happened here over the last few years have been very positive in this sense that it's just becoming more and more cosmopolitan, and they're going to be. I'm pretty sure that if you would have been here 15 years ago, you wouldn't have dreamt about doing an American theater here, But now there is actually a market for it,
Yes.
But often, like, and I mean, we touched on a few of those points. I feel like, and as I said in the beginning, kind of the reason why I wanted to have you here. Well, I didn't know all this stuff about you, so I would have wanted you only for that as well. But I feel that you express yourself in a very kind of direct way, and a lot of the stuff that I saw you write, and I spied a little bit on your Facebook and stuff like that. And I liked it when I wrote you. And where did you find my name? You said and I was like, wow, the guy is paranoid. But you weren't. You were just curious about how I knew who you were.
Yeah.
And but this is what I do. I go cold calling. I just reach out to anyone, and I have a lot of people don't answer me, and they probably think I'm weird.
Yeah.
But I don't give a shit because I am weird. But looking at the U.S. kind of from a distance, which is the luxury that you have when you move away from your home. I moved away from Iceland almost 20 years ago, and that country looks very different. And in some way, there are things that I miss, but there are things that I'm so fucking happy to be away from.
Yeah.
How is that looking at the U.S. from here?
I feel so lucky to be here and away from the U.S. as the American culture crumbles before my eyes. I'm so relieved not to be in the middle of all of that stress and all of that poison. Yeah.
In what way? What has gone wrong? I mean, what? I don't know. Because you're born in the 56, so you go through this really, really economically positive, culturally positive. You have the hippies. You have, I mean, there's so many positive things happening, and technology and stuff like that.
Yes.
Has it gone off the cliff?
It has gone off the cliff because it stopped being a culture whose goal was bringing people together and became a culture of dividing everyone, and that fed on anger over love, and it was what got to me. And what I don't miss is the level of aggression and anger that meets you every step of the way during your daily life. People,
how, like example?
People driving anywhere. Road rage was rampant in the Boston area. You had to drive with both hands on the wheel, completely, fully alert at all times, because people were just maniacs on the road. If you weren't driving defensively, you were an accident waiting to happen. So you couldn't drive anywhere and be relaxed. You had to drive full of tension because you had all these assholes on your back everywhere. People hated their job. People in the service industry were rude and hostile, no matter what their job was. If it was in Starbucks, if it was in hospital reception, if it was in the library, it didn't matter. This notion of you're paying me minimal wage, so
I can be rude.
So I can be rude. Fuck you all. Give me more money, maybe I'll be polite to you. And I lived in a very culturally mixed. I lived in Salem, Massachusetts, home of the witch trials. And we had a black neighborhood, we had this Hispanic neighborhood, and tensions started escalating. I think as happened in London and in Paris, where neighborhoods were becoming more segregated instead of less. That started to happen in the U.S.
But why is that? What pushes it in that direction? Because it's kind of, as you say, I mean, it's more segregated than less.
Yes, because this is the downside of multiculturalism. It means everyone embracing their own unique, special piece of the culture and having no need to integrate or to create something greater. So there's no pressure on people to learn English, to adapt to common
values,
courtesies. Every culture just encapsulated itself within most American cities, I think, and it's only becoming more so.
There must be some political thing, or do you know what I mean? I mean, something enables it, or something.
Yes,
I'm curious what that could be. You know what?
Well, I think I place a lot of the blame at the far left Democrat culture that has reasserted itself in the U.S. One of the reasons I left.
But you were a Democrat.
No. I grew up in a family of all Republicans.
But you're gay. You're supposed to be.
I know I'm supposed to be. Yeah, well, fuck that. I didn't pay any attention to those rules. I became a Democrat when I went to college and in my 20s because that was how it. I mean, you grow up and you rebel against what your parents are. So if my parents were Republicans, my rebellion was to be a Democrat.
Yeah.
You know, but I let that go pretty early. Once I got into my 30s, I was an independent. I didn't affiliate with a party until the first Obama election, in which I was made to feel like a racist because I did not support Barack Obama. And I decided to enroll as a Republican as a big fuck you to all of my friends and family members who gave me shit and made me feel like a second-class citizen because I was not on board with hope and change, the great Obama message.
Why not?
Because there was no plan. It was hope and change, hope and change. Democrats are really good at sloganeering. You know, what's your policy? And, you know, it's hope and change. Well, what does that mean? What changes are you going to make? What laws? What's the policy? Hope and change. It's, you know, and it's still that way. It's just these push button slogans. Democrats are great at holding up signs that have slogans on them, or wearing T-shirts that have slogans on them that express their political view. They are the party of blaming of don't look at me, look at them. Democrats run on demonizing the other side. You know, Republicans tend to run on policy.
But many, I think a lot of people might disagree with this by saying you know, the obvious choice would be to say that Trump was polarizing and he was calling people assholes and saying they're stupid. You know what I mean? He used language that we haven't really seen in politics. And because I think what, if I look at it from my view, because I have the outsider view, is that Barack Obama was a much more likable person as the way that he presented himself and the way that he
presented himself.
But that's what most people look for. They don't go below that.
Right. So you had this guy who knew how to present himself in this very positive, unifying, charismatic garb with very little substance, as opposed to this big, brash, obnoxious guy, Trump, who had a lot of substance, who had a lot of policy he wanted to change.
What's the substance?
Well, this substance is that he did not want to yield to the globalists, to the people that sought to keep America dependent on foreign energy, to keep America perpetually involved in wars around the world. Trump wanted to get out of all of that. He gave the finger to the world leaders, and they didn't like it one damn bit.
But he was an outsider. I mean, he didn't.
He was
come
an outsider.
Within the system.
No, he was a businessman. He didn't come from within the system, which is why he was able to work it so well, because he was used to running corporations. Obama was a community community organizer. That was his experience. Obama never built a business before, never managed thousands of people on a payroll. And to get back to why it all fell apart with Obama, is because I watched racism grow and get worse and worse during the Obama years in the White House to the point where there was more racial tension than at any point since I was I was going to say since I was a kid, but there was no racial tension in New York when I was a kid. So it was the first time in my adult life that I was acutely aware of people constantly talking about racism.
But is it possible that that there was no racism when you were a kid because all the people that were marginalized were not asking for anything? Do you know what I mean? That the minorities or the ones that we are racist towards or that were being racist towards, that they were kind of just kept at bay.
But they weren't, especially in New York. There was nothing stopping you, no matter what your race or ethnicity or religion. There was nothing stopping you from going after the American dream. There still isn't anything stopping you. America is not an inherently white, racist, oppressive patriarchy the way the left is trying to paint it as.
But it's being painted like that by white people, like white Democrats.
By white Democrats, yeah, exactly.
There's some sort of a self-torture going on there.
Yes, it's a lot of virtue signaling. Oh, look at me! I care so much for the underdog. I'm so multicultural. I love everybody. It's just bullshit.
But on the other hand, I mean, I'm not an expert on American matters or anything like that. But a friend of mine is from North Carolina, and I asked him about this. Did you witness racism? And he said, no, not like. It's not like you would see a black kid or a Hispanic kid outside your home and you would scream out the window, run away, you idiot, go out of my neighborhood or anything like that. And he said, we played together like you were describing. We had in the class for kids of all colors and ethnicities and whatever, blah, blah, blah. But what he told me, what was really interesting, he said that, so imagine this, you're like 17, 16 or something, and you get into some trouble. And he said, most likely... and you live in let's say, a smaller town or city. Most likely there's a white kid and black kid and Hispanic kid. Most likely the white kid has some sort of either capital at home. There's, the parents have a credit card or they have something. They can bail him out. They can get him out on bail, for example, I don't know, drunk driving or whatever. Some minor demeanor or minor offense. But the black and the Hispanic kids, there's going to be no dad in the home. There's going to be no money, no historical money in the family. And he's going to sit there. He's going to spend the night in jail. That's going to go on his criminal record. And that's going to be working against that person wherever, like applying for a job, going to school, whatever. Just that tiny little difference of having $300 allowance on the credit card or not. Do you get what I mean?
I do get what you mean. I do. So,
and this is what people would call systemic.
So why are those black and Hispanic kids getting arrested so much? What's different?
I don't know. Maybe they don't come from, I don't know, there's not enough money in the family to pay them better education.
And now all the major democratic cities in the U.S. have district attorneys that have been bought and paid for by George Soros and put into position.
But how do we know that?
Because it's very out in the open. If you look at the campaign finances of these district attorneys, the money is from George Soros.
Yeah, but why wouldn't he?
The proof is there.
Why would some
because
old
George
Hungarian
Soros is invested in destroying America.
For what motives?
He is a globalist. He does not want sovereign nations. He wants one global world rule.
But the guy is 80 or whatever, He's not like... Yeah. It's not. I could do this. I'm 40 something. I could see. Okay, I'm gonna unify the world under one power, me, and I'm gonna, have all the parties in the world, and I'm gonna enjoy the spoils.
Right.
What's the motive of an?
It's what keeps him alive. It's what these people like Soros and Bill Gates and Klaus Schwab. They're essentially they're vampires. And the blood that they feast on is fear and division. That's their blood. But I truly believe that. I think these people, George Soros is demonic as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, they use him as a scapegoat in Hungary for a lot of things. I know that, and I mean, he has shown it though. I mean, he has a history of attacking. He devalued the British pound.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's very much out in the open. So he has proven, or he has a history of going against nations and their interest. But I don't know. I don't want to believe that that this evil exists.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is evil.
Yeah. Well, if you believe that goodness exists,
then evil must exist as
evil
well.
Must exist.
You learned
as
that
well.
in the Catholic
yeah.
upbringing.
Yes, I did.
But
if you have angels, you have demons.
But do these guys? I mean, so okay. So you said it started with Obama. It started kind of. You felt that this division started there.
Yes, absolutely.
And I guess then it got worse with Trump.
No, because if you look at the breakdown of election numbers for the 2020 election, Trump got a hell of a lot higher a percentage of Black and Hispanic votes than most Democrat candidates did. Because those communities realized that, yeah, okay, wow, we got the first Black president in the White House. What did we get for it? How is our life any better? In point of fact, their life was worse under Obama.
By which indicators? I mean, what do you know? I mean, I don't know. Was there a more homeless or less employment? I mean,
yes, absolutely. More homelessness, more unemployment, more people in jail. You brought up the issue of people not being able to afford bail. So we were circling around this with George Soros getting these district attorneys into office.
We were at the systematic racism of keeping Black people away from posting bail.
So they've leveled the playing field now. These district attorneys in Democrat American cities have done away with bail. So now that's been equalized now. Nobody has to put up bail. People go in and they're put right back out on the streets. And so what has this wrought over the past especially over the past year, that crime has exploded in double digits, but only in Democrat-run cities where criminals are put right back out on the street. And you have places like San Francisco where the cops will not arrest you if you steal less than $999 worth of goods. So you have these shoplifting sprees going on in LA and San Francisco, where these gangs, it's like
I've seen the videos, but they're all wearing a mask.
Flash mobs.
They're all wearing a mask.
Oh, of course they're masked.
They're
yes.
safe.
Oh, they're safe. They're safe from COVID. God bless them. They're so safe.
But on the other hand, I mean, like if you go back to that example that I took of the three kids taken arrested for some minor thing. I mean, that can happen. I mean, we've all done something. I've been arrested. I spent a night in jail, and I learned from it. There is obviously some sort of a difference of position, like how to deal with that situation. And not only does one or two of the kids out of those three have to spend the night in jail, but they also get it on the crime record, and it stays with them forever. That's going to kind of keep them back. It means that they can earn less and all that. Another thing that I've heard also, which I don't know if it's true, but for me it doesn't make a lot of sense, that the schools are financed by the real estate taxes in the area where the school is. Correct. I don't know if that's everywhere or it's just in certain states.
As far as I know, it's everywhere.
Yeah. For me, that doesn't make a lot of sense, because then you're kind of bound to have poor schools and rich schools.
Yes, absolutely.
And this, for me, is a policy where you obviously, if you have someone who, I don't know, comes from because I come from a country where I'm from a poor family and like just working class people, but I studied next to sons of doctors and lawyers and ambassadors and stuff like that. Like there were rich people in my class. But it didn't feel like that.
I understand. Yeah.
This is a problem, right?
Oh, it's a tremendous problem.
But it doesn't.
The American education system has fallen apart. It's a degree from an American university is not worth anything near what a degree from a European or an Asian university is any longer. It's and it starts from the bottom. It starts from okay, so we want to improve education for let's say Black and Hispanic students. So what do? We redo the testing. We throw out the grading system so nobody fails. Everyone gets pushed along. People graduate with appalling reading levels, terrible math skills, because we've leveled the playing field so that there's no inherent prejudice in the education system. And what do you get? You get people that do not know critical thinking, cannot hold a job, have no social skills. The American education system has completely failed them. And so then, okay, so what's the alternative? Well, I'll go to some terrific university where, I'll get out and people will hand me a job because I went to Stanford or Princeton or Yale or Harvard. But I'll be in debt for the rest of my life because it's going to cost me $100,000 a year to do that. And what I can tell you from spending my career affiliated with Harvard University, it no longer does that. 50% of Harvard's graduating class the year that I left Boston was unemployed. 50% of these people who were paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for their Harvard education couldn't get a damn job.
That's crazy. And I think, but the university or college and universities has been, in the US, it's always been a business, but now it's just become a big business.
Yes.
And so if you imagine, you can't, this must be dreams for them that there are no grades, no evaluations, so they can just sell a lot of people. It's a win-win for everyone except the student. So,
yes.
So think about this. You go and you pay, I don't know, probably $100,000-$200,000 per semester or whatever, and then you have to take a loan for that. So somebody's charging interest on that. And then you probably have to rent on the campus or something like that. So somebody gets money for that. And and then you go out, you made the school rich, you made the loan company rich, and then you're not necessarily qualified because you probably should never have been to school.
Exactly.
You should have found a different job or you should have done something else.
Yes.
But you've been sold the illusion that you could become something great, and then you're unemployed. And the problem is that the people who get into this position, I think it's super, super difficult for anyone, politician or anyone. No one's going to turn around and tell them, listen, you made a mistake. There will never be a job for you. You're not clever enough or you're not hardworking enough.
Right.
So we have a bunch of people out there with unrealistic ideas about what they can. And then...
Yes. And it's... the problem compounds itself because higher education in America now is liberal education. They used to call it liberal arts degrees. Now it is liberal degrees because campuses are 95% Democrats, liberal Democrats, teaching their agenda.
You were a Democrat in college, right?
Yes, I was. But it was a conservative Catholic college. So it was balanced in that sense. Now it's not balanced at all. So the American education system is a factory for producing more Democrats.
But hasn't it always been?
No, I don't think so. No. Where did all the brilliant Republicans come from in American history?
I don't know. Maybe they're self-made or something. I don't know.
Yeah, one of the great life experiences of going to university in America used to be the process of learning civil debate and how to think critically and how to disagree with your peers in a civilized manner and to, meet in the middle, come to some kind of agreement for both sides. That's gone. It's just completely polarized now.
Aren't you just an old guy telling us that you young people are fucking it up?
I don't think so. I'm still pretty young at heart, and I work with a lot of young people. I work with young actors. I surround myself with young people. Most of my friends are far younger than I am, and I see what's happening to them. And nah, I don't think I'm some old fart. I mean, yeah, I am an old fart, but
but it's I mean, I often thought about this American dream, like. When I heard my American friends. I mean, it was really an interesting eye-opener for me when I moved here to Prague. I started to know more Americans than I knew in Iceland and in Denmark, where I lived before. There were just the expats. There were not as many expats there. So, and then I started asking those guys, like, so what is it about Prague? You know, I said, oh, it's real freedom. It's really like here's real freedom, and there's public holidays, and there are vacations, and you can get 5 weeks off in the summer and paid holiday and 3 years of maternity leave, which I think personally is crazy, but whatever, each for its own. And then I started asking, but how was it in the States? And well, my parents had 7 days off. My dad went to work at 6 in the morning. He came up home at 8 o'clock in the evening. And then and I said, okay, and how we had a house, we had 2 cars. And the weekends they spent driving us around to, play soccer or whatever it is that the kids did.
Right.
And then I thought, okay, no wonder that Americans don't read books. They just don't have time.
They don't have the time. So it's true.
And you make sure they don't have public transportation. So you keep them in the car. So they first of all have to spend money on cars. Secondly, on fuel. And then they're driving, so they can't listen to anything. So the podcast, a podcast must have been a perfect product into the American culture. That they can listen in the car. And then they get no days off. And I actually read it. 70% of Americans don't read one book after graduation.
It's true.
Not one fucking, but not even the phone book.
Yeah.
And then I thought, okay, so this is really clever because they just keep them in the, what is it called? In the rat, like the
rat wheel.
Yeah. So they keep them there, and they convince them that they are the greatest nation on earth and everything is perfect here. Just pay more, spend more, ignore everything from the outside. We're the greatest country on earth. When it actually isn't.
No, it's not. It's not. And the mask is falling. I don't, it's interesting when things get hot politically in the U.S., like before the 2020 election. A lot of Czech people will assume that I'm an American and will want to know where I stand and what I think about it all. And more, my answer to them is, I'm Irish. Don't blame me. Not my country. I have Irish passport. Me, EU citizen. No American here. I don't know. It's very odd not to really identify as American any longer, to really reject the whole thing.
But it's, I guess, like, I mean, we're looking at 10, 15 years of humongous changes in society. I mean, like, from a technical point of view. And I remember there was some year, I don't remember, it was Time magazine, they voted the man of the year or the person of the year was you. That was the front page.
Yeah.
And I remember when I saw it, I was like, yeah, that's really cool, because social media, everybody had a voice, everybody had a chance to get out somewhere with something.
Yep.
But it also meant that you had access to seeing how other people lived, seeing what they're saying. I now know what Britney Spears ate for breakfast. I never knew that, 15 years ago, And I could imagine if I would have been younger when this started, because, back in those days you could see, I don't know, something about the Rolling Stones once a month in the local newspaper, I can imagine that seeing all this and having this just one click away on your phone, it can create some unrealistic expectations of how life should be. And then if you then take and add on it that you actually start socializing on those social networks with only like-minded people, then you also kind of isolate yourself from from the other opinions.
And then the algorithms of those social media give you more and more feed of the private little community that you've encapsulated yourself in.
So I'm thinking that because that creates division.
Of course it does.
And everything you look at now from the States, if you look at there's no center anymore. Everything is either right or left.
That's right. That's right. There is no center.
And a lot of people somehow, I don't know, living under the illusion that they should have a better life, but they're not ready to work for it, maybe, or I don't know, or somebody else should hand it to them. Entitlement, because entitlement comes with being special, right?
Entitlement comes with being special, exactly. And the next level of all of this, creating your own little artificial universe in social media, and that becomes your circle of friends, the people who give you likes on Facebook. The next step is Mark Zuckerberg has changed Facebook to Meta. The next step is the metaverse, where we all have our little headsets on and we're all in our little universe and have no need whatsoever for social interaction any longer.
Yeah, and this is the end of part 1. Part 2 will be out in a couple of days, and there we talk more about censorship, COVID, global warming, trust the science, the division between people, and check that out. It will be out in 2-3 days or something.